Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Jamestown Public School Board to order. This is a regular meeting. It is January 15th, 2024, 5:15, and we're in the Thompson Community Room at the Jamestown Middle School. I'd like to recognize all of the individuals in our audience tonight. Thank you for coming. And I'd also like to note that we have Board Member Gail Nelson is connected by telephone tonight. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Steve, would you be willing to read the school board norms?
Board norms are to share and respect opinions and speak with united voice once a decision has been reached, execute all duties of the school board in compliance with North Dakota Century Code, prepare properly for meetings, commit to assessing board effectiveness, and ensure high-quality governance for all stakeholders.
Thank you, Steve. We have no public communication tonight. Under conflicts of interest, does the board wish to declare any conflicts? Okay. I'm just going to remind the board that I declared a conflict of interest with Shower and Associates at a previous meeting. Moving on to our consent agenda. At any time, a board member can remove something from the consent agenda. It does not need a second. Is there anything you'd like removed or clarified? Is there anything you'd like removed? If not, is there a motion? Motion by Dan. Second by Steve. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Under a regular meeting, we have some recognition tonight. We're going to start with the choir first, and Dan is going to read the choir, and then we'll move on to the band. We'll take one group picture up here. So when your name is announced, please join me over here. I have a little item for you, and then proceed to the stage behind me for the photo.
Okay, thank you. Tonight we'll be honoring the members of the Midwest ACDA Honor Choir, Daniel Nyland, Aiden Lawrence, and Shelby Dunwoody.
I'll be reading the band participants, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name. The WDA star recipients under the Big Top Percussion Ensemble, Olivia Corinta. Was it close? Jackson Schlecht, Avery Lenhart, Maddie Tyson, Mia Tyson, Samuel Entu, Lena Hoffner, Isaac Hassenbargen, and Evan Loreen. Under the Sassy Salsa, Olivia Cornata, Haley Spurgeon, Averly Lenhart, Samanatu, Camden Herzig, Kaya Heeb, Asher Williams, Aaron Hankey, Alyssa Hertz, Isaac Hassenbargen. Under the saxophone ensemble, Isaac Hassenbargen, Kendall Anderson, Riley Ask, Micah Stout, Isis Koki, Trinity Burley, Mason Gibson, and Zach Jansen.
And then we'll let parents come in close for pictures. Perfect. I think that's great. Okay, come on in, parents. Congratulations to all of our talented students. Moving on in our agenda, under correspondence, we have a thank you for a plant from the family of Jennifer Gall for a loss in the family. Under reports, student council report. Do we have someone? Is someone here tonight for student council report? I didn't see. I'm not sure if we have. Oh, student council, and there's no school today, and you're coming to the report. I'm very impressed with that.
I couldn't hear you, sorry. Okay. I'm Hattie McDonald. I'm a junior at JHS, and I'm executive co-president of Student Council. In December, we went to Student Council Convention in Bismarck, where we listened to motivational speakers, learned new leadership skills, and got to vote for state Student Council Board. Overall, it was really fun, and we learned a lot. This Wednesday, we will be holding a fundraiser for Ethan Eigel, a past student that was recently diagnosed with cancer. Students are asked to wear fun socks along with bringing a free will donation for the cause. Lastly, prom is coming up on March 16th, and the junior class student council has been planning it.
Very good, thank you. Any questions from the board? Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Oh, Melissa, go ahead. Yep, go ahead, Melissa.
Sorry, I just had a quick question on the Ethan Eigel fundraiser. If the public wants to donate, can we just go to the high school and do that, or?
Yeah, you
Okay.
can just come to the high school. We'll have in the commons, we'll have a stand or something.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good question, Melissa. Any other questions from the board? Any other questions? Thank you for coming tonight on this cold night. Also under reports, we have our auditor's report. Linda, please come forward. And I think everyone has a booklet in front of them that you can review.
Or it's a PDF.
And it's also a PDF. Yes.
Physical copies.
Yeah.
Hello. I will start kind of highlight a few things in the audit report, starting on pages 1, 2, and 3, which is our independent auditor's report. And if you look at the first two paragraphs, that's where we express our opinion, is that these financial statements present fairly the financial position of Jamestown Public School as of June 30, 2023, and for the year then ended. The next section I will highlight is management's discussion and analysis. And this is the only part of the audit report that you will see comparative numbers. And these numbers are on the government-wide basis of accounting. If you go down to the bottom of page 5, we have the total assets, approximately $54 million as of June 30, 23. Total liabilities, about $42 million. And then the net position, which is just the difference between the assets and liabilities, is $5.7 million. If you go down below that, we have the change in the net position. Total revenues for June 30, 23 was about almost $36 million compared to $39 million the prior year. And then the expenses in 2023, about $34 million compared to $31 million in the prior year. Going on to the main financial statements, on page 11, we have the statement of net position. And you will see that this has all of the assets, including capital assets, all of the liabilities, all of the long-term debt. And you will see also we have a lot of numbers that pertain to the North Dakota PERS plan and the North Dakota TFFR. And I'll point out some information about that when we get into the footnotes. If you look at the next page, page 12, the statement of activities. For the year ended June 30, 23, there was an overall increase in net position of $1.7 million from the prior year. And like I said before, that's the government-wide financial statements. Going on to page 13, we have the fund basis of accounting, and these are the numbers that you would normally see. The assets that we report here are current assets and current liabilities. And the balance sheet on page 13, current assets, not quite 12 million, liabilities 2.2 million, and then the fund balance is 9.2 million. Page 15, statement of revenues and expenditures for the year ended June 30, 23. You'll see that the total revenues was 36 million compared to expenditures of 39 million. And overall, on the fund basis of accounting, there was a decrease of $3 million in the fund basis of accounting. I will go and highlight a couple things in the notes to the financial statements. Going back to page 32, which are the long-term obligations of the school. You will see on the top part we have total bonds and lease purchases, and that liability is slightly more than $4 million as of June 30, 23. And then you'll see down below that we've got some other liabilities. The net pension obligation on the North Dakota PERS plan and North Dakota TFFR. And you'll see that, again, like normal, those numbers have a tendency to swing largely from year to year. And here they went from, on the PERS, from 3.2 million to 8.5 million. And TFFR went from 19 million to 26 million. And again, this is just Jamestown Schools' percentage of the entire state of North Dakota plan. The only other thing I will probably point out is going back in the supplemental information on page 62. We do a single audit of Jamestown School because you have more than $750,000 in federal dollars. And in this case, for the year ended June 30, 2023, it was $4.1 million. We, of course, have the letters that we issue, one on the internal control and compliance over governmental accounting, and then we have the compliance and internal control over major federal funds. And like in past, we just have the single finding is that Jamestown School does not prepare its own financial statements, and that's just an ongoing finding. I know I go through that rather quickly. But if anybody does have any questions, we're certainly available to answer them.
Are there any questions from the board?
Yes.
Aaron?
I just got a question for just the process of having to list the ongoing finding year after year after year, and we don't do anything with that. So, I mean,
It is just, you know, it's one of those, the expectation in governmental accounting and auditing is that we don't prepare the financial statements, and because we do prepare them, we do have to make that note.
Okay.
Dr. Luck?
I do have a comment. I make this, I'm sure many know that this is probably a statement I'm going to make, or question I'm going to make, but as it relates to pension liabilities, can you, just to reinforce that you talked about PERS, you talked about TFFR as district liabilities, They are listed as district liabilities because of GASB standards.
Correct.
Not that the district is responsible or liable for those funds if something were to, you know,
Yeah.
nothing's
Yep.
going to happen. But if something were to happen, the district is not responsible for those liabilities that are listed under PERS and.
The only time that the Jamestown School would be responsible is if the entire plan, both PERS and TFFR for the entire state would go under. That's,
Yeah.
and I know that there is some talk in the works about changing the plans
Sure.
because of the type of plan. How they invest the money has a effect on what the values are at any one particular time.
And I bring it up because it's a fairly large district liability, so those
Correct.
that look at the audit might say, well, that's a significant liability, but that is reported that way based on GASB standards.
Correct. And I guess we probably don't emphasize enough, the numbers that you see every month is the fund basis of accounting. And, you know, that's kind of like where you're at currently. And that adding of the GASB information for the PERS and the TFFR, that's a relatively recent disclosure. They seem to feel that even a government needs to report like a business, but I don't think they really see the significance of that's the entire plan that covers everybody in the state. So to me, I think it's misleading, but you kind of have to follow the rules.
I'm just going to follow up on that just for our public's
Sure.
information, because they may not take the time to pull this all up, but this is no different than any other public school has to report, correct? And other public
Absolutely.
entity that has public dollars associated with it.
Correct.
Okay.
All of these numbers are provided by the websites for TFFR and PERS.
Yeah, just thought that might be helpful information for our public. And then also our finding is very similar to a lot of other
Correct.
entities that are a similar size to us.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Any other questions? Okay, if not, so I just want to thank Linda particularly today because, and she gave me permission to share this, but Linda is going to be retiring. And so we appreciate all the work that you've done for the auditing for Jamestown Public Schools for a lot of years. And we wish you very well in your retirement as well.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed working with the school. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So moving on in our agenda, we have our board education. Oh, we need a motion to approve the audit. Motion by Aaron. Second by Jamie. We have a motion and a second for approval of the audit as presented. Any discussion? Any discussion? Christy, we're going to do a roll call vote for this. We're going to do a roll call vote for this. Christy, go ahead.
Melissa Gleason? Diane Hansen? Jamie Bear? Jason Rohr? Gail Nelson? Dan Tweeten? Aaron Roberts? And Steve Veldkamp. Okay.
Just wanted to make a comment, Christy. I'll be in touch with you tomorrow about filing the information with the Federal Clearinghouse. And then we should be done with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you, Christy, for the roll call vote, and the motion is approved. So tonight we have, for our board education, strategic competency, continuous improvement of JPS learning and working environment. And we have Nate Eklund with us from Vital Networks. Please come forward and share with us the information you have.
Hello, Chairwoman Larson, Dr. Leck, Board, thanks for having me. Wrapping up a fun, full day here in Jamestown. I'll even use fun despite the weather. I'm from Minnesota, so I can handle it. So, yeah, my name is Nate Eklund. I am the founder and CEO of Vital Network. We're a Minnesota-based company that's worked for the last 20 or so years in K-12 education around the country around teacher retention, workplace culture development, and really looking at the dynamics that create school cultures that both attract and retain human capital. So that's been I started my career as a 13-year English teacher and then have spent the last, how old am I? I don't know. I've spent a lot of years working with schools, really looking at what are the key contributors, the kind of key factors that create great places to teach and lead. I started my day today by having a chance to speak to nearly all of the staff in the schools. So over at the high school, got to do a keynote, and it's a really important moment, really, for me, and I hope for the educators to sort of establish sort of the what and the why of what we're doing in our partnership with Jamestown. And actually, I'm just going to pause for a moment. We actually are a state-funded organization. We were supported by the legislature in the last session that allows us to work with districts here in the state for the next 2 years at no cost to the districts. So actually, this sort of approach towards thinking about retaining teachers and leaders is beyond kind of the walls of Jamestown, but really extrapolating out into the state of North Dakota. And I would also like to applaud broadly those efforts in that, as far as we know, it's really the first time a state has sort of thrown its hat into the ring. So we can look at the sort of macro conditions in education in our country right now, and maybe we can make an impact here. Because I'm just going to go a little dire for a second. It's bad out there in the world. The teacher workforce is really at a crisis state, nationally and even internationally. The rate that we are losing educators versus the rate that we are gaining educators is completely sideways. So I'm a hopeful person. I'm a pragmatic person, but we also we're facing some really acute statistics nationally. North Dakota is an interesting place, and one of the reasons we are here is that your workforce numbers in education aren't, how do I say this, aren't as bad. I mean, there are some trend lines in North Dakota writ large and some pockets within the state that actually are making some headway, or at least sort of maintaining status quo. So I think we have a real opportunity at a state level to present, beyond North Dakota, sort of the impact we can have when we operate at scale. So when I had the chance to meet Dr. Luck and start talking about partnering and what it would look like in Jamestown, I was thrilled to be invited in and to get to do this work. So today was a launching point for Vital Network and your district. And again, it started this morning with a keynote to staff, and I just had a couple key, maybe high-level takeaways from sort of our point of view on this work would be, number one, that we read a lot about teacher burnout. It's a thing that we see in social media. We maybe hear it if we are married to or ourselves educators. And actually, it's a problem that exists outside of education, but burnout is sort of this catchphrase for this sense of depletion, and it's why people quit the profession or leave school districts. But typically, when we look at that, we think of it as sort of an individual situation, like you should get more sleep, you should eat your vegetables, it's sort of this is your problem, you are doing something wrong, and therefore you are burning out. Vital's partnership with districts tends to say, well, actually, no, it's more an environmental condition, that the conditions in which we work and the relationships that we have are going to have a more profound impact on retaining people than just individual behavior. So I am pro-vegetable, I am pro-sleep, but I'm also pro-really well-run organizations. And knowing that when we have really well-run organizations, we can indeed have an influence over like the macro health of a school and of its community. And so that was really the primary sort of message that I had a chance to share with your educators today. Right before winter break, your certified staff, teachers and paraprofessionals used our baseline survey, and that's really the primary driver for me being here today, was to first meet your educators. Then we met with district leadership to review sort of district-wide findings and kind of insights into the organizational conditions inside of the schools. And then immediately prior to this, met with each building principal and a group of teacher leaders from each one of your buildings to review their data, because the experience the high school is having is going to be different than this elementary school. In fact, this elementary school is going to have a different experience than that elementary school. So we just got to spend 2 hours this afternoon allowing them really to look at sort of what's unique to their daily experience there in the school. And we focus on, we're not an opinion company. We gather their insights, but we really want to be tactical. So we look at decision making, time management, resource allocation, and then levels of care and support inside of the schools and outside. How do we connect with our communities? How do we connect with our families? And so we didn't finish anything today. What we started today is that opportunity for schools to really think about how it is that they operate every day, and then that matriculates up to the district. What are district policies, procedures, and behaviors that impact our schools? So it's really looking at the whole ecosystem of teaching and leading in Jamestown. What I have experienced today was just really, it was a really great day. Leaders who were really invested and really honest with their people, teachers who were eager to both contribute and to listen. I shared with Dr. Leck at face value. I'll say that your data not only indicates a ton of like existing strengths, but even reflects like a district that I would anticipate some of these for numbers that would be in a year 2 district. So I think you already have a lot of practices and ethos in place that undergirds our work. I will just say that over 20 years, we've gotten to do this in a lot of different kinds of places, with a lot of different kinds of schools that find themselves in a lot of different sorts of situations. Some are in full crisis mode. Some are an exceptional district just looking to have someone else say it. And I thought Jamestown was just this great example of a school that just has tremendous assets. I mean, that your data indicates people connected to the profession, connected to your schools, and then really typical growth areas and just some of the management, even at the building level. How do we make decisions? How do we communicate? How do we use effective time, a meeting time? So some really tactical things, but from a high level, just really coming in from a place of strength. So I'm super excited to see this. I use really progressive language when I think about what's ahead for you as a district. I think you have some things you can refine. I think you have some strategies you should continue, but there were no vacuums of things you weren't paying attention to. And lastly, I'll say, especially from a board perspective, the timing of this work with the launch of your strategic plan was really pleasurable for me, really. I mean, just because I could see the value of our partnership really embedded in sort of the metrics and the goals that you've set at the board level. So, yeah, that was that's the last 25 years of my career in 4 minutes, and then a brief mention of your district. But happy to answer any questions or give other insights as I can.
Any questions from the board? Aaron?
So you said the process started today.
Yeah.
So what's next?
Ah, great.
What's the outlook?
Yeah, that's awesome. So one of the things that liberated today's, especially the building level principals and their teacher leaders, was that they did not need to walk out after a 90-minute session with their own 3-year growth plan. So the next step is that they're going to go back and share it with their faculties writ large. Part of what's really important to us is, as a teacher myself, how many times we've taken a survey and it just disappears and we have no idea where it goes or if it has an impact or not. And I don't want to do that to humans. So the next step is really at the building level for them to individually identify kind of key areas for growth. Those insights, though, will then be brought back here at the district level, where we can start also looking at the impact that the district is having positively or negatively, or whatever, whatever learning is available to support the efforts at that building level. And then this is work that continues, at least through next year, and we're hopeful that we continue this partnership sort of I don't know, maybe it's a little bit bold to say in perpetuity, but some of the growth that I think happens culturally and organizationally takes time. Some of it doesn't happen in 3 months. So one of our commitments is just making sure that we maintain these partnerships long enough to affect change. Yep. And then lastly, we do remeasure over time to measure growth over time. So we do want to give indicators at the building and district level of growth over time. Is that performed through the surveys? Yeah, right.
Any other questions? Or Dr. Lick, you want to?
Maybe I will, if I may. I was just going to follow up on that. Redeploying the survey in May will then give us a chance, even in a short year, to see specifically what those strategies, were those strategies that we implemented to fill those gaps, were they successful? And then we'll do that same thing next year where we start a survey. It'll be closer at the beginning of the year, next year. Give us a little bit more time to dig more deeply into strategies, and then again reassess. So this constant, continuous improvement of survey, strategy, reassess, and then continuing to move the bar. And I will say, I actually felt really good when we went through the district data and heard about the school level data, the building level data, and as Nate had talked, really pretty good. But our purpose isn't to just affirm what we've done, and we feel like we've done good things, but this is a starting place for us. And there are strengths that we can embolden, and there are areas of development where we want to strategize around to fill that gap. But I see this as a great starting spot, and I feel great about where we are, but it's the start. We didn't use it to pat ourselves on the back. We did it so we can improve in all of those areas for our teachers and our kids.
Diane.
Thank you for the great presentation. I guess you're kind of preaching to the choir when you tell us that we have a fantastic staff that are engaged in their profession. We are so proud of our teachers and our entire staff on the district level. What I was wondering, it doesn't surprise me that you rated us highly because I know they're very engaged. Did you see, as you go through districts in Minnesota and North Dakota, did you see signs of burnout here that you can help us to embolden?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. And how do I answer that? I'm not scared to answer the question, by the way, about Jamestown or any other district. I mean, teaching is hard right now. There's a reason why. And I'll zoom back into Jamestown quickly. I know we don't want to stay here too late, but I'll just say that here's 2 questions from our data set from the last 20 years. I think teaching is an important job, and I would recommend teaching as a career to young people. Teachers, on the question, is this an important job, or like 99.9 strongly agree. So they believe in it, and they even say that they are good at it. That same populations of tens of thousands of educators who have taken the survey, who are universally, boldly, saying this is an important job, about 1/3 of them strongly agree they would recommend it as a career to young people. So the landscape in which our educators are operating right now is not an advantageous one to retention, and it is advantageous actually to burnout. So if you think about burnout being a lack of control over time, whether it's work-life balance and the impact teaching has on on family life and of their own sort of mental health, when we think about external pressures from communities, politics, culture, media. So there's a lot surrounding education that makes it unsurprising that we currently have a retention crisis in our country. In Jamestown, I would say there are indicators that this is a hard job. I would also say that there are so many insulating data points and insulating factors, really strong connections amongst colleagues. I mean, university, like, we can solve problems together, we solve conflict well together. We actually model good behaviors of work-life balance. So there's a ton of cultural elements here that suggest that it is a safe, and I mean safe, like intellectually, professionally safe place to work, and an emotionally safe place to work. That said, I'm so excited, and I will admit that I teared up a little bit this morning, because I think there's some things they can work on that make good things even better. I'm not going to say good or great, but I just did. That I think there are a number of indicators that said, yeah, we're already in a robust place. Just think about when we start to think differently about some of these other practices and sort of systems around us.
Dr. Leck?
If I can add some flavor to that too, from my perspective in district, from looking at it through the district lens, we're very early in the process, and the survey is designed to be general, so we can, as buildings, really address the context. So for example, if you look at resource management, I have the resources I need to be successful in my position. That might be different depending on who you ask and at what level you ask. So it's hard as a district to analyze that without context. So that's why we have the building level teams that dig into what that means. Because at Gustner Elementary, that might mean, well, the iPads aren't working. That's the physical resource. At the middle school, that might be, we don't have the curriculum because our social studies curriculum is 10 years old. At the high school, that could mean a different resource. So it's designed to be general so we can dig into that data. And that's what I really like about the process is we're bringing our building administrator in and staff leaders in so we can have a dialogue about, okay, what does that say? What does this say? Because if we just say as a district, resource allocation, it's pretty hard to strategize around how to improve that when we don't know what that means, boots on the ground in a classroom or for a particular classification of employee. So that's where we really leverage the people in the room, the leaders in the room to say, okay, this is what that means for us. And then we can strategize for that building. And then that flows up to the district. So I think that's why this process is so successful, is it's built around getting that context first before you make assumptions on what would happen. Because I might think one thing, but the second grade teacher thinks a completely different thing. The secretary feels a different way, and the paraprofessionals feel a different way. So I like this process, and I really applaud Vital for the way that they do this, because I think it's going to provide some really good data for us to make specific interventions to make improvements. So I didn't mean to cloud that, but I think there's some context that needs to go to that question.
Jason?
Okay, two questions then. Have the building level leaders been identified? So like, is our elementary leadership team, is that part of their?
So we asked all of our building principals to bring a team of 2 to 5 to this group, and that was people ranging from paraprofessionals to classroom teachers to ELT, all of the different 8 groups.
And then second question, so as this process evolves, what information and when is provided to school boards? Will we ever see reports, results, other than like measure? Will we see anything like where we've started, or is that all? Or will we see gaps we've closed? Does that make sense?
It does, and it's a good question, and I'm yes and yes, or yes and no. the preponderance of the data and the work that we do is really operational and very day-to-day, so not particularly board-friendly in terms of sort of like from a governance perspective. That said, I think absolutely boards, and this is something we work together in partnership with superintendents, I think high-level sort of, think executive summary. What did we learn? What are we working on? What improvements have we made? What analytics are we using to quantify that growth? What do we still have left to do? So at that level, absolutely. And I think that's entirely appropriate. I would also say from a board perspective, you are part of this. In a governance setting, and we'd have to go into like a board retreat, but the ways that you manage the leaders who lead this district is central to creating great places to work. And so in areas where a board and a superintendent, for example, are not in concert, that's a difficult environment to think about growth organizationally. So I would say the fact that you are a cohesive unit in support of your schools, it is not surprising, therefore, that there's a degree of calm and focus to the district itself. And hence, I think you are entirely privy to sort of key findings and kind of key strategies that the district is engaging.
Dr. Leck?
When Vital was built, was in mind when we built our strategic plan, and the partnership was already in place. So some of those metrics will be how we assess how we've done. So they will be embedded from that perspective as well.
Any other questions from the board or comments? All right.
Thanks for your support.
Yes,
Really appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah,
you, Nate.
thanks.
Appreciate you coming out here tonight on this with this weather, so we appreciate that. Moving on our agenda, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Leck.
Thank you. You have my written report. A few areas of focus. Our JVCTC Director timeline, I have that outlined for you. We had just surveyed the CTC staff on skills, attributes, characteristics for that position this summer when we installed the Dean of Students. I didn't feel the need to ask again. I felt that was going to be a fairly consistent input. So that's something because we just completed, we'll be utilizing that information. I'm looking at the week of January 22nd to review our candidates. Right now, I believe we have 8 candidates for that position, which I feel pretty good about. It might be 7, but we have established an interview team, central office, and administrative peer. We did ask a member school because we are a consortium, so we did ask one of our rural partners to send a representative as well. JVCTC staff members, we'll have 2 of those and a board member. I did ask Dr. Larson last week, something like that, to appoint, and Mr. Roberts will be representing the board for the CTC director position, assistant director position. And then the plan would be to conduct finalist interviews on January 29th, that week of January 29th, and bring a recommendation to the board by February 5th or February 19th. So we're right around the corner. I feel we're in pretty good position. And I will say, I think we have some really good candidates in that pool already. So I'm pretty happy. Questions on that? Just want to make sure we move on.
Any questions from the board?
You heard a little bit already about January 15th. The feedback is very early, of course, but the feedback we've gotten from staff has been extremely positive from our professional development day. I did include an agenda along with Vital Network, and I think you can see the passion that Nate holds for the work that he does. He was absolutely a fantastic speaker. Spoke to a lot of professionals in their hearts and where they are in the work that we'll be doing over the next couple of years was very, very, very well received. And I thought he did an excellent job that was followed by a keynote from a gentleman, William Gruby. He is a graduate student in computer science, and he spoke to us on artificial intelligence, AI, how teachers can implement AI in their work. He was just a fantastic speaker. The feedback we got regarding William was, really off the charts too. A lot of really practical information that teachers can use, how they could use it, for example, a special ed teacher, how you could use, and resources. Free, he really just shared a collection of resources and tools for our teachers to use. Just to give you a good example, for a special education teacher, how they can use ChatGPT to write a behavior intervention plan, to write goals for their IEP, to help support them in writing their IEPs. These are the things that we all know as you all know as board members, are real time barriers for special ed teachers. So how we can use those tools to help us do our jobs better. He talked about the things that our teachers need to know regarding these tools, so they're used in the right ways. And how, when they're used in the right ways, they really support a higher level thinking, and they aren't a replacement for learning. And I thought he did a great job with that message. He walked us through a different AI tool that would help a teacher create lesson plans, and what prompts, more importantly, what prompts you would use to get you to the right ChatGPT query that you would use to get to the product that you're looking for, and how you can best do that. A lot of really, really practical feedback, and like I said, what we heard back from staff was really very positive. And I think we can look forward to having more support in this area, because I think it's would be a real benefit professionally for our staff. And we were really excited about that. I did start the day with an overview. It was pretty short, about a 30-minute overview of our strategic plan. We wanted to do a better job this time around with communicating, aligning, why are we doing what we're doing, tying all of this together. And we did get that feedback from our staff too, that they felt the PD Day was very aligned seemed very consistent and aligned with what we were doing. So that was great feedback for us. But I was glad that Nate was here. Like I said, I think you can see his passion, but their process is really very good, and I'm very excited to see what comes from those conversations and how we can continue to move the bar. Like I said, earlier, I was really very happy with the results that I saw, but they are a starting spot for us to do better. I wanted to draw attention, this isn't necessarily a school board issue, but as folks watch our meetings, I want to make sure that they're aware of the primary residence property tax credit. If you're unfamiliar with that, make sure that you are searching that out, primary residence property tax credit. You can look at our agenda in my superintendent report and find links to that. A $500 tax credit on your property tax for next tax year for a primary residence. The process, it's an online application. It takes probably 5 to 10 minutes at the most to complete. You would need your parcel number to do that if you don't have your tax statement. Stutzman County does a great job of having an online portal that you can search for that parcel number. When I did it, I feel like even without having the property tax statement in front of me, it took me 5 minutes. Really very easy, but there is a window of time that a property taxpayer could complete that, and that is from January 1st to March 31st. And I just would encourage everybody to do that as soon as possible, because things fall off our plates and we forget about them, and suddenly we missed our window. And actually, I'm sure anybody at the county would be happy to help, but if people don't know how to do it, they can give me a call, 252-1950, and I'm happy to walk people through that process and give them any links that they need, because we certainly don't want anybody in our community to miss out on an opportunity that's provided by the North Dakota Legislature. So I'm going to pause if there's questions on that.
Any questions?
Okay. One of the area,
I was just curious how long the Vital Networks program we're planning, is this like a 2-year process, or do we have anything?
So that's a great question. It was funded through the state for 2 years. If the state wants to continue, they may do that. If not, then that becomes a conversation as a district. Is this something that we want to continue with Vital? But right now, and I think Nate touched on this, it's state funded. A few months ago or a few meetings ago, we approved a bill that was Vital Network, and I made mention at that time that that's a full reimbursement through the state. So we paid the bill, requested it through web grants, and we got that funding reimbursed to us. So no cost to the taxpayer, although it's a pretty significant contribution from the state. One of our points of emphasis over the course of this year, at the beginning of the year, was we really wanted to make sure that we were creating partnerships with our community in emergency services. We'd asked all of our buildings to consider how can they honor emergency services, military or law enforcement, whoever that may be. And I wanted to draw your attention to Roosevelt Elementary. If you had a chance to see, they were featured on a news segment at the Valley News Live, the Valley News Morning Show in a segment called North Dakota Nice. I did link it in my board report, and you can see it. It's really just a fantastic thing. And the feedback that was received from those that were honored by that, the emergency services, was really heartwarming, and they really appreciated the commitment that Roosevelt made to them, and I wanted to draw attention to that. I think it's just an outstanding way for our schools to be connected to those that serve us, and so I wanted to give a big shout out to Roosevelt teachers and students and staff for this program. I thought it was really well done. The last thing that I had was just a reminder that as part of receiving ESSER 3 funding, we are required to review and revise, if necessary, our return to learning and continuity of services plan. There are no changes suggested, but January is our next, or is the appropriate 6-month review. We'll have one more in July, and then we are no longer required to do those reviews. So with that, I would stand for any other questions.
Any questions from the board? Any questions? All right, if not, thank you, Dr. Luck. Moving on our agenda, we have nothing under old business, new business, activities, buildings and grounds, curriculum and assessment and instruction. Under number 4, finance, A, approval of agreement with Widmer Roll for auditing services for fiscal year 2025. Is there a motion? Motion by Aaron. Second by Jason. We have a motion and a second for approval of agreement with Widmer Roll for auditing services for fiscal year 2025. Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion approved. B and C, the general fund balance and monthly financial reports are there for your information. Do you have any questions for Christy at this time? Okay. D, budget revisions. Is there a motion for budget revisions? Motion by Dan. Is there a second by Aaron? We have a motion and a second to approve the included budget revisions. Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Under personnel, 5A, approval to hire for the 2024 to 2025 school year upon successful background check and receipt of appropriate licensure. Number 1, Carla Rosario. Number 2, Reagan Salea. Is there a motion? Motion by Jamie. Is there a second? Second by Dan. We have a motion and a second for approval to hire for the 2024 to 2025 school year upon successful background check and receipt of appropriate licensure, Carla Rosario and Reagan Salea. Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved, and welcome to our district. B, approval of the resignation of the conclusion of the 2023 to 2024 school year. Number 1, Cheryl McIntyre, and number 2, Meredith Mightier. We would, of course, like to thank these. A motion by Jason. Yep, go ahead. We can do that. Yep, go ahead. Yep. Motion by Jason, second by Steve. Any discussion? I just was going to say thank you to both of them for their many years of service and the positive impacts they've had to our music departments. Any other discussion? Aaron.
Yeah, I'm going to take a little liberty, too. I just would personally like to thank both of them for for their efforts and contributions to the district, and they had a significant positive influence on my children, and I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you, Aaron. Dan?
I echo what Aaron said, and I also understand that it's not just the school, it's not just this music department, it is the community music community that we have, that both of them have been very integral with. And I hope we take that into consideration when we're looking ahead. So.
It's lots of years of service, so thank you. Any other discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Nothing under policy and procedure. Under tuition, A, approval of tuition agreements for the 2023 to 2024 school year. We have 1 through 4. 7th grade West Fargo student to attend Jamestown Public Schools. 3rd grade and 6th grade Barnes County North students to attend Jamestown Public Schools. 10th grade Jamestown student to attend Pingree Buchanan Public School. 11th grade Jamestown student to attend Pingree Buchanan Public School. Is there a motion? Motion by Jamie. Is there a second? Second by Aaron. We have a motion, a second, to approve the tuition agreements for the 2023 to 2024 school year, number 1 through 4. Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. 8, other. Election report, Christy, can you just give us an update on that and timelines?
So we have 3 city spots open for the board and 1 rural, and the election will be on June 11th. The deadline to file intent to run would be April 8th by 4 p.m. at central office. And then on April 10th, we'll do a drawing for placement on the ballot. There will also, you also have to complete a statement of interest and new this year, campaign contribution statement. So those will all be due at central office. Everything will be posted on our website and in the paper as well.
Thank you, Christy. Any questions, Rob?
If I can add, the campaign contribution statement, we'll have to provide feedback on what that is. We haven't seen it. That is not a district requirement now. That is state law. It was passed in the last session. We don't know a lot about that or what that process looks like, and so we'll make sure to educate you as in a future meeting as far as specifically what is required for that, but it is new.
Any other questions? Thank you, Christy. B, review and approval of return to learning and continuity of services plan. Is there a motion? And there's been no changes to this, so is there a motion? Motion by Aaron? A second by Steve. We have a motion, a second, to approve the review and approval of return to learning and continuity of services plan. Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Are there any items for future agendas that you would like to see? Jamie?
I know it's far away, or it seems like it with this weather, but again, I just want to bring up the option of possibly moving summer school towards the beginning of summer as opposed to later in the summer for retention purposes.
Okay. Any other items for future agendas? Okay. If not, if you think of something before the next meeting, just let Dr. Leck or myself know. Meetings to be scheduled. The North Dakota School Board Association has a negotiation seminar on Thursday and Friday, February 1st and 2nd, 2024 in Bismarck. B, District School Improvement Committee meeting on Thursday, February 1st, 2024 at 3:30 p.m. in the Thompson Community Room in the middle school. We have our next school board meeting on Monday, February 5th, 2024 at 5:15 p.m. in the Thompson Community Room in the middle school. Any other meetings that you might, okay, all right, just want to make sure we got them all. Next, your monthly superintendent evaluation is Section 4, Curriculum and Student Support Services, and Section 5, Community Relations. There being no further business before the board, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.